My name is Angel Ferguson. I'm 34 years old. Last Saturday, at my younger sister's wedding reception, my mother introduced me to the groom's family with the same smile she'd been rehearsing my entire life. She rested one hand on my shoulder as if she were proud of me and said, "This is our other daughter. She works as a maid." My father didn't even look at me. He lifted his wine glass, smiled at the guests, and added, "She never really aimed very high." 26 people heard him. Crystal glasses, fresh flowers, a string quartet still playing softly near the windows. And then, one woman at the opposite end of the table slowly lowered her fork. She stared at me, not with pity, with recognition. Her expression changed so subtly that almost nobody noticed. Almost. I did. She leaned back in her chair, looked at my mother, then back at me, and quietly asked, "Angel, what exactly did you tell your family you'd do for me?" Every conversation in the room stopped. Welcome to Silent Grudge Stories, where family secrets finally come to light and those everyone underestimated finally have a voice. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you've ever wondered what happens when the person everyone underestimated finally stops staying silent, make sure to subscribe. Because this story is only beginning. My mother's smile froze. My sister's face lost every trace of color. My father suddenly became fascinated by the tablecloth. Nobody realized it yet, but the wedding they'd spent an entire year planning had just begun falling apart. Not because of me, because the lie they'd been telling about me for 12 years had finally met someone who knew the truth. To understand why one simple question destroyed everything my parents had built, you need to go back 12 years. Back to the night they decided my future wasn't worth believing in. Back when I still thought hard work could make people proud. I grew up believing that achievement earned respect. That's what my parents always said. Study hard, work harder, make the family proud. But somewhere along the way, I realized those rules only applied if you follow the life they had already chosen for you. My father, Franklin Ferguson, had spent over 30 years in the same corporate office. Same position, same routine. He wasn't ambitious. He was comfortable. My mother, Carol Ferguson, lived for appearances. She could spend 3 hours preparing for a neighborhood dinner and 3 seconds deciding whether someone was worth respecting. To her, success wasn't about character. It was about titles people recognized. Doctors, lawyers, executives, anything else barely counted. Then there was my younger sister, Olivia, 4 years younger, beautiful, confident, and from the moment she was born, the center of every room. Every report card became a celebration. Every promotion became family news. Every small accomplishment somehow deserved another framed photo in the hallway. Meanwhile, my victories quietly disappeared, not because they were smaller, because they belonged to me. When I graduated with my business degree, my mother hugged me in front of everyone and whispered, "Now don't waste it." At the time, I thought she meant it as encouragement. I didn't realize it was a warning. A month later, she proudly announced that she'd already paid the enrollment deposit for my MBA. She had told relatives, neighbors, church friends, even my father's coworkers. Everyone believed they already knew what my future looked like. Except me, because during my final semester at college, I discovered something that fascinated me. Luxury estate management. Not the glamorous side people imagine. The real operation behind extraordinary homes. The logistics, the planning, managing staff, budgets, maintenance, security, hundreds of moving pieces working together every single day. The larger the estate, the more complex the operation became. I loved it, not because of the luxury, because someone had to make impossible things happen without anyone ever noticing. And I wanted to become that person. When I told my parents I'd accepted an entry-level position inside one of the country's largest private estates, the room became painfully quiet. My mother blinked twice. My father folded his newspaper. Then she asked, "Doing what?" I answered honestly, "Housekeeping." She laughed, not a nervous laugh, a disappointed one. The kind of laugh people make when they believe someone has thrown their life away. You have a business degree. To clean someone else's house. I tried explaining that it wasn't just cleaning, that everyone started somewhere, that there were promotion paths, training, management, entire careers built inside large estates. She never let me finish. My father stood up, walked into the kitchen, came back carrying the MBA acceptance folder she'd prepared weeks earlier. He placed it in front of me, then slid my employment offer across the table beside it. Without saying a word, he pushed my offer letter into the trash, then looked me straight in the eyes. Choose the future that deserves your education. I quietly reached into the trash, picked the letter back up, smoothed the paper with both hands, and said, I already did, for the first time in my life. Neither of my parents looked angry. They looked embarrassed, as if I'd already become the family disappointment, before I'd even started my first day. The next morning, my mother called before my alarm even had a chance to ring. I answered because, despite everything that had happened the night before, some part of me still believed she might have changed her mind. Instead, her first sentence erased that hope. So, have you come to your senses yet? I looked at the employment contract lying neatly on my kitchen counter. No. A long sigh filled the phone. You really intend to throw away your degree so strangers can tell you which bathrooms need cleaning? She didn't wait for my answer. Franklin is devastated. We've spent years helping you build a future, and now you're choosing to become the help. Then she hung up. No goodbye. No, I love you. Just disappointment wrapped in silence. 3 days later, I arrived at the estate carrying one suitcase and more uncertainty than confidence. Nothing about the property resembled the places I'd imagined while studying hospitality management. The house wasn't simply large. It functioned like a small private institution. Separate buildings, guest residences, gardens stretching farther than I could see, a maintenance department, security teams, chefs, drivers, groundskeepers, housekeepers, engineers, an entire organization operating quietly behind closed gates. For the first time, I realized this wasn't a mansion. It was an ecosystem, and every single detail depended on people whose names guests would never know. That fascinated me. My first supervisor handed me a neatly folded uniform. Dark gray, perfectly pressed, simple. She smiled warmly. Nobody starts at the top here. I wouldn't trust a director who never learned how to polish a floor. That sentence stayed with me. Because unlike my parents, nobody there seemed embarrassed by honest work. The first 6 months were brutal. My feet hurt constantly. My hands cracked from chemicals. Some mornings began before sunrise. Some nights ended long after everyone else had gone home. But every task revealed something new. How inventories were managed. How staffing schedules worked. How repairs were coordinated. How expensive mistakes became if small details were ignored. While others saw cleaning, I saw systems, processes, leadership hiding underneath ordinary work. One afternoon, I noticed 3 contractors waiting outside the service entrance. Nobody had informed housekeeping they would be arriving. 40 minutes later, every corridor scheduled for cleaning became inaccessible. The kitchen staff couldn't reach storage. Maintenance couldn't access equipment. Everything stopped. People blamed each other. Voices grew louder. Managers argued. I quietly grabbed a clipboard, moved 2 teams, changed the cleaning rotation, redirected deliveries, reassigned equipment. Within 20 minutes, everything flowed again. Nobody celebrated. Nobody even noticed. Except one person. A woman standing silently on the second-floor balcony, watching everything. I wouldn't learn her name until much later. That evening my supervisor stopped me before I clocked out. Someone wants to meet you tomorrow morning. I assumed I'd made a mistake. Instead, the next morning, I found myself sitting across from the estate's operations manager. He slid my clipboard across the desk. You reorganized yesterday's schedule. Yes. Who told you to? No one. He studied me for several seconds, then asked something completely unexpected. What did you study before coming here? Business. His eyebrows lifted. And you're cleaning guest suites. For now. He leaned back. A slow smile appeared. Interesting. Nothing else. The meeting lasted less than 5 minutes. But something had changed. I could feel it. A week later, I wasn't assigned to guest rooms anymore. Instead, I began rotating through different departments. Laundry logistics, inventory, vendor coordination, supply purchasing, maintenance scheduling. Every month someone taught me something new. Every month my responsibilities quietly expanded. Nobody announced it. Nobody applauded. The work simply became larger. Back home, the story looked very different. Every Sunday dinner followed the same pattern. Olivia talked about marketing campaigns. My parents listened like she was presenting quarterly earnings to shareholders. Then someone eventually asked about me, usually an aunt, or a cousin, or a family friend. Before I could answer, my mother always did. Angel's still cleaning. The conversation immediately moved on, as if that explained everything anyone needed to know. One Thanksgiving, my uncle smiled at me across the table. So, still carrying a mop? Several people laughed. Not loudly, just enough. I smiled politely. Sometimes. The answer confused him. Because it was true. Sometimes I still carried one. But that wasn't the whole truth anymore. Not even close. Grandma Evelyn noticed. She always noticed. After dinner, she found me alone on the back porch. Cold wind. Dark sky. She handed me a cup of coffee. You didn't correct them. I've tried. And they only hear the first sentence. She nodded slowly. When people decide who you are, they stop listening. She reached into her purse, pulled out a small leather notebook. Write everything you're learning. One day, someone will ask. I laughed softly. I don't think anyone in this family ever will. She looked directly at me. I'm not talking about them. I fill that notebook every single night. Inventory systems, vendor contracts, emergency procedures, staff management, leadership mistakes, budget planning. I wasn't just learning how to maintain a home. I was learning how to run an operation worth more than most companies. 9 months after I arrived, my supervisor handed me a new name badge. The old one read, housekeeping attendant. The new one read, housekeeping supervisor. I stared at it for several seconds. I've only been here 9 months. She smiled. We know. As I pinned it onto my uniform, I had no idea someone was already planning an even bigger promotion, or that the woman watching quietly from the balcony months earlier had personally approved it. I still didn't know her name, but before long, she would become the one person capable of destroying every lie my parents had spent 12 years telling about me. The promotion changes my title. It doesn't change my parents. If anything, it gives them new ways to laugh. The first time my mother hears I'm supervising an entire housekeeping team, she smiles over Sunday lunch and says, "So now you're the head maid?" Everyone chuckles. My father doesn't. He simply nods, as if she's made a perfectly reasonable observation. At least somebody has to tell the others which rooms need vacuuming. The table laughs again. I cut another piece of chicken. Smile politely. Say nothing. I've started learning that defending myself never changes the conversation. It only gives them another target. Inside the estate, silence produces the opposite result. The less I try to impress people, the more responsibilities quietly find me. By my second year, department heads stop asking if something can be done. They start asking how I want it done. The landscaping director consults me before scheduling renovations. The executive chef checks large event timelines with me before finalizing menus. Security updates evacuation procedures only after I review guest movement. None of this happens because I'm the oldest person there. I'm one of the youngest. It happens because I pay attention to problems before they become emergencies. People begin trusting that. Trust spreads faster than titles. Then one ordinary Tuesday morning, everything goes wrong. A charity gala for nearly 300 guests is scheduled that evening. Florists arrive late. One refrigeration unit fails. A delivery truck blocks the service entrance. 2 senior staff members call in sick. and the event coordinator is stuck at the airport because of weather. For 10 minutes, the estate feels like controlled chaos. Phones ring nonstop. People speak over each other. Someone accidentally sends dining staff to the wrong building. Another team prepares the wrong ballroom. I stand in the middle of the operations office listening. Not speaking. Listening. The problems aren't connected. Until they are. I grab the event schedule. Cross out 3 timelines. Move the reception 30 minutes later. Split one kitchen into 2 service stations. Redirect maintenance. Borrow staff from housekeeping. Move florists through the west entrance. Have security reroute suppliers. Within 45 minutes, everything begins flowing again. Not perfectly, but smoothly enough that guests never realize how close the evening came to disaster. As the final limousine disappears down the driveway after midnight, someone slowly applauds behind me. Just once. I turn. The same elegant woman I noticed months ago on the balcony stands there. Silver hair, dark blue suit, hands folded calmly in front of her. I've seen her around the estate many times, always from a distance, never introduced. She studies me for several seconds before speaking. You solved 6 problems. You only received credit for 1. I don't know how to answer. She continues. Do you always let other people take credit? I shrug. The event mattered more. For the first time, she smiles. A real one. Not large, but genuine. Then she extends her hand. I'm Kristen Whitmore. Only then do I realize who has been standing in front of me. The owner of the estate. The woman every department answers to. The woman whose name appears on every contract. The woman I've unknowingly been impressing for months. She doesn't congratulate me. She doesn't praise me. Instead she asks, walk with me. We spend almost an hour crossing quiet gardens while maintenance crews finish cleaning after the gala. She asks strange questions. Not about cleaning. About people. What happens when 2 department heads disagree? How do you decide who needs help first? What makes someone trustworthy? Every answer leads to another question. She never tells me whether I'm right. She simply keeps asking. By the time we return to the main house, she says only one sentence. You don't think like someone managing rooms. You think like someone managing people. Then she walks away. That conversation changes my career, although I don't realize it yet. Over the following months, Kristen begins appearing unexpectedly, sometimes during inventory reviews, sometimes while landscaping crews replace trees, sometimes while I inspect guest residences before visiting dignitaries arrive. She rarely speaks for more than 5 minutes, but every conversation leaves me thinking for days. One afternoon she asks, what happens if you're unavailable tomorrow? I answer honestly. Someone else steps in. She shakes her head. That's delegation. I'm asking about leadership. The difference stays with me. From that day forward, I stop solving every problem myself. I start building people who can solve them without me. Within 6 months, productivity improves across 3 departments. Not because anyone works harder, because everyone suddenly knows exactly what success looks like. Then Kristen does something nobody expects. She removes the previous estate operations director. 32 years in the position. Gone. Rumors spread through every building. Most assume an experienced executive from outside will replace him. Instead, Kristen calls me into her office. I enter expecting another conversation. Instead, a thick folder waits on her desk. She slides it toward me. Inside are blueprints, budgets, construction schedules, insurance reports, payroll summaries, vendor contracts, everything connected to the estate. She folds her hands. I want you to shadow me. For how long? As long as necessary. My heartbeat doubles. I'm not qualified. She smiles slightly. That's exactly why you'll learn. For the next 3 years, my world expands far beyond housekeeping. I negotiate renovation contracts, approve staffing plans, coordinate charity events, review security audits, manage annual operating budgets that exceed anything I ever imagined. The irony never escapes me. At home, my parents still tell relatives, Angel cleans houses. Meanwhile, I'm deciding which contractor receives a 7-figure restoration project. The distance between my two lives grows larger every year. One Saturday, my parents invite neighbors over for a barbecue. Someone asks how work is going. Before I can answer, my father laughs. She's still with that rich family. They can't survive without their maid. Everyone laughs politely. Even Olivia joins in. I smile. Take another sip of iced tea. Inside my phone, a message arrives from Kristen. Need your approval before signing tomorrow's construction agreement. Call me tonight. I lock the screen without reading further. No one at the table notices. They never notice. They've spent years looking at me. They've almost never actually seen me. 4 years later, a new title quietly appears beneath my name. Estate Director. Every department now reports through me. More than 40 employees. Multiple residences. Private events. Executive staff. Everything ultimately flows across my desk before reaching Kristen. The promotion isn't announced publicly. There isn't a celebration. Kristen simply hands me a new access badge and says, "I've been doing this for 30 years. I finally sleep through the night." It's the closest thing to a compliment she's ever given me. That evening, I call Grandma Evelyn. She cries before I finish explaining. "I'm proud of you." 3 words. Simple. Honest. I've spent years waiting to hear them from my parents. Instead, the only person who ever says them is the woman who believed in me before anyone else did. Then, just as we're about to hang up, Grandma says something that sends a chill through me. "Olivia called today." I smile. "About the wedding?" "Yes." There's a pause. Then Grandma lowers her voice. "Your mother is already telling Peter's family you're still just the maid." I stare out the office window. Snow is beginning to fall across the estate. For the first time, I don't feel embarrassed. I feel something else. Because I suddenly remember something Grandma doesn't know. Peter's family has already invited one very special guest to that wedding. And there's only one reason Kristen Whitmore would ever accept. She knows the groom's parents personally. She'll be sitting only a few seats away from mine. And if my mother repeats that lie, she won't just be insulting me. She'll be saying it in front of the one person alive who knows exactly who I really am. When Olivia calls, she doesn't ask how I've been. She doesn't congratulate me on anything. She doesn't even pretend we're close. She gets straight to the point. "The wedding is next month." I wait. "We expect everyone to be there. Not we'd love for you to come. Not I'd like my sister beside me. Just, we expect." I almost laugh. After years of being treated like an embarrassment, now I'm suddenly required. "For Grandma," she adds quickly, as if she already knows that's the only reason I might say yes. She's right. I accept for one person. Grandma Evelyn. Not my parents. Not Olivia. Not the wedding. Just her. She deserves one peaceful day. I promise myself I won't let anyone ruin it. I have no idea how impossible that promise will become. The weeks pass. Work becomes even busier. Kristen and I are preparing the estate for a diplomatic fundraiser involving politicians, philanthropists, and international guests. For almost 3 straight weeks, the wedding disappears from my mind. Until one Thursday afternoon, Kristen walks into my office carrying 2 invitations. "I need you free next Saturday." I check my calendar. I'm already unavailable. She raises an eyebrow. "Oh, my sister's wedding." She looks at the invitation in her hand, then back at me. A slow smile appears. What a coincidence. She places the cream-colored envelope on my desk. It's addressed to her. Peter Evans' parents have invited Kristen as one of their honorary guests. "They've been family friends for years," she explains. I almost declined. She notices the expression on my face. "What?" "My sister is marrying Peter Evans." Now she's the one staring. "Peter." The same Peter. For a moment, neither of us says anything. Then Kristen quietly asks, "Does your family know we work together?" I shake my head. They think I still clean guest rooms. She doesn't laugh. Instead, she studies me. "Do you intend to correct them?" "I've tried for years." "No." She interrupts gently. "I mean at the wedding." I think about it, then answer honestly. No. If they want to keep believing that, they can. Kristen nods once. I'll follow your lead. That sentence comforts me more than she probably realizes. She isn't planning a dramatic confrontation. Neither am I. As far as I'm concerned, it's simply another family gathering I'll survive. Or so I think. The morning of the wedding arrives. Grandma calls before I leave. Promise me something. What? No matter what your mother says today, don't let her steal your peace. I smile. I'll try. She sighs softly. I've watched you spend 12 years proving yourself. Today, you don't have anything left to prove. I wish she were right. The ceremony itself is beautiful. White roses, soft piano music, sunlight pouring through the chapel windows. Olivia looks genuinely happy. For a brief moment, I forget everything else. I clap, smile, even cry a little. Because despite everything, she's still my sister. Some small part of me still hopes this day marks a new beginning. That hope survives exactly 23 minutes. The reception begins at one of the city's most exclusive country clubs. Crystal chandeliers, live orchestra, champagne towers, everything screams luxury. Exactly the kind of event my mother has dreamed about for years. She floats from table to table introducing herself to Peter's relatives as though she's hosting a royal banquet. Every compliment makes her stand a little taller. Every expensive decoration seems to validate something inside her. I quietly make my way toward the seating chart. My name isn't beside Grandma. It's not beside my parents either. Instead, I'm seated near the service entrance, at the very last table, almost hidden behind a floral display. For a second, I think it's a mistake. Then I see my mother walking toward me. Oh good, you found your seat. I keep my voice calm. I'm back here. She lowers her voice. Peter's family has important guests. We couldn't put you at the front. I glance toward the head tables. There are still several empty seats. She follows my eyes. Those aren't reserved. They're intentionally left open. For prestige. She steps a little closer. Please don't make this difficult. I've worked too hard for today. Before I can answer, she straightens my jacket, brushes imaginary dust off my shoulder, and smiles. There. Now at least you look presentable. Then she walks away, leaving me standing alone. Grandma notices immediately, without asking permission. She carries her plate across the ballroom and sits beside me. I thought we were eating together. My mother spots us from across the room. Her smile disappears. She marches over. Mom, your seat is at the family table. Grandma calmly cuts another bite of chicken. So is Angel's. An uncomfortable silence settles over the table. My mother forces another smile. We're trying to make the best impression possible. Grandma looks directly into her eyes. Then perhaps you should start by acting like she's your daughter. For a heartbeat, nobody breathes. Then my mother laughs loudly. Oh, don't be dramatic. It's only seating. She turns and walks away before Grandma can answer. But I notice something. Peter's father witnessed the entire exchange. He doesn't say anything. He simply watches. Thoughtfully. The first crack has appeared. An hour later, the photographer begins organizing family portraits. Everyone gathers near the flower wall. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. Someone hands me a bouquet. Then another coordinator quickly takes it back. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were helping the staff. Several guests laugh awkwardly. I force a smile. It's all right. Before I can step into the photo, my mother gently places a hand against my arm. Sweetheart, why don't you take this one? She points toward the drink station. We're already a little crowded. It's a lie. There is plenty of space. She simply doesn't want me in the photographs. I step back. The camera flashes. Everyone smiles, including my parents, as if nothing happened. 10 minutes later, Peter walks over carrying 2 champagne glasses. I've barely had a chance to talk to you. He hands me one. You work for a private family, right? I nod. Yes. Full time. Yes. He smiles politely. My mother said you're very dedicated. I guess your employers must really value you. I look toward the entrance of the ballroom. At that exact moment, Kristen Whitmore walks inside, elegant black evening dress, confident, calm. Several guests immediately move to greet her. Peter follows my eyes and smiles. I'm excited for you to meet her. She's one of the most respected women I know. A strange feeling settles in my stomach, because in just a few minutes, Peter is going to introduce the two of us, certain they're complete strangers, and I already know nothing about the next conversation will go the way anyone expects. The ballroom grows louder as dinner begins. Champagne flows. The orchestra changes to softer music. Laughter bounces between crystal chandeliers. From a distance, it looks like the perfect wedding. Only I know how carefully every smile has been arranged. Kristen doesn't come straight to our table. She spends several minutes greeting Peter's parents. Old friends, long embraces, warm laughter. They clearly know each other well. Watching them together, I realize something. If tonight goes badly, it won't stay inside this ballroom. It will follow both families long after the wedding ends. Peter eventually waves me over. Angel, I want you to meet someone. I already know who he's talking about. Still, I walk over calmly. Kristen turns before either of us speaks. For less than a second, our eyes meet. I can tell she remembers exactly what we discussed in my office days earlier. She gives me the smallest nod. Nothing more. No surprise. No performance. Just respect. Peter smiles confidently. Kristen, this is Olivia's older sister. My future mother-in-law says she's worked as a maid for years. My stomach tightens. Not because of the lie. Because my mother is standing only a few feet away. Listening. Waiting. Almost proud of herself. Kristen looks at me. Not at Peter. Not at my parents. Only at me. She waits, as if silently asking, "Do you want me to say something?" I answer with an almost invisible shake of my head. Not yet. Kristen simply smiles politely. It's nice to see you again, Angel. Again. One word. Barely noticeable. But I see Peter frown. Again. Kristen takes a sip of champagne. Yes. We've known each other for several years. Peter smiles. Oh, I didn't realize Angel had worked for your family too. My mother laughs before anyone else can answer. She's been with wealthy families forever. You know how it is. Once you're good at cleaning, they never let you leave. Several guests laugh. My father joins them. So I guess that's job security. Another wave of polite laughter spreads through the group. Kristen doesn't laugh. She simply watches. Silently. Peter keeps smiling. Completely unaware. So you must have trusted Angel a lot. Kristen answers calmly. I trust her with everything. The sentence lands differently than he expects. He nods. That says a lot. You probably have a very large home. Kristen smiles. I do. Peter laughs. I can't imagine cleaning a place that size. Nobody notices my mother smiling even wider. She thinks every answer is confirming her story. She has no idea. Kristen hasn't actually lied once. Not a single time. Dinner is served. The conversation shifts. For a while, I almost think the moment has passed. Then my father decides to speak. He leans toward Peter's uncle. You know, when Angel first told us she wanted to become a maid, I honestly thought she'd lost her mind. Several people look at me. He continues. We paid for a business degree, and she threw it away. My mother shakes her head dramatically. We tried everything. Counseling, career coaches, graduate school. But she insisted. Peter chuckles awkwardly. I guess everyone has to follow their passion. My mother smiles. Apparently her passion was mops. More laughter. Even Olivia laughs this time. Not loudly. Just enough for me to hear it. That hurts more than I expect. Across the table, Kristen slowly places her fork on the plate. For the first time all evening, she speaks without smiling. Business degree. My mother nods proudly. Yes. Such a waste. Kristen turns toward me. You never mentioned that. I didn't think it mattered. It mattered to me. The room becomes noticeably quieter. Peter glances between us, trying to understand the shift. Kristen asks another question. When did you finish university? 12 years ago. And you've been with us ever since? Almost. She nods thoughtfully. Peter smiles again. So Angel must know every room in your house by heart. I answer honestly. I probably do. He laughs. I bet. Kristen never takes her eyes off me. What was your first position? Housekeeping attendant. And your second? Housekeeping supervisor. My mother relaxes. See, everything is exactly as she's been saying. Then Kristen asks another question. And after that? I answer quietly. Operations coordinator. Peter stops smiling. And after that? Operations manager. The table grows noticeably quieter. My father shifts in his chair, probably wondering why any of this matters. Kristen continues. And now, I hesitate, not because I'm ashamed, because I know exactly where this conversation is heading. She notices. I'll ask differently. What do you do for me today? Before I can answer, my mother interrupts with a nervous laugh. Oh, Kristen. I'm sure Angel doesn't want to bore everyone with workplace details. Kristen doesn't even look at her. She keeps watching me, waiting, patiently, giving me the choice. I could still avoid it. I could change the subject. I could protect my parents one last time. Instead, I answer, I oversee the operation of your estate. Silence. Peter blinks. I'm sorry. What exactly does that mean? I take a slow breath. It means every department reports through me before reaching Kristen. The silence becomes heavier. Someone quietly sets down a wine glass. My father forces a laugh. Oh, that's cute. So you're like the head maid? Several guests laugh again. Relieved. The tension breaks. For a moment, Kristen slowly turns toward him, then asks the question that changes everything. Franklin, what exactly do you think an estate director does? Nobody answers. Nobody even moves. Because for the first time that entire evening, my parents begin to realize the conversation is no longer under their control. No one answers Kristen's question. Not Peter. Not my parents. Not even me. The ballroom, so loud just seconds earlier, feels strangely small. Every conversation nearby has stopped. People aren't pretending to eat anymore. They're listening. Franklin forces a smile. I think we're making this more complicated than it is. Kristen tilts her head. Then simplify it for me. He clears his throat. Angel supervises housekeeping. That's wonderful. But at the end of the day, she still cleans houses. A few uncertain laughs ripple through the room. Nobody sounds convinced anymore. Kristen lets the silence sit. She has always known something my parents never understood. Silence makes people uncomfortable, and uncomfortable people reveal themselves. Finally, she looks back at me. Angel, would you mind answering one question? Of course. When I travel, who approves every operational decision before I sign anything? You do. She smiles faintly. And before it reaches me? I do. Peter's smile disappears. Kristen asks another question. Who interviews department heads? I do. Who negotiates vendor contracts? I do. Who approves annual staffing plans? I do. The room grows quieter with every answer. My mother shifts in her chair. She's beginning to understand this isn't heading where she expected. Peter tries to laugh. So, you're basically an office manager? Before I can answer, Kristen gently shakes her head. No, an office manager doesn't oversee an estate. She turns back toward me. How many people report directly or indirectly through you? 43. Someone across the room quietly whispers. 43. Kristen continues. How many residential properties? 5. And the operating budget under your supervision? Every eye turns toward me. I hesitate, not because I don't know, because I know what saying it aloud will do. Kristen waits patiently. The truth has never embarrassed you, she once told me. I remember those words now. I answer, just over $28 million annually. A fork slips from someone's hand. The sound echoes through the ballroom. No one laughs this time. Peter stares at me. I'm sorry. You manage. $28 million? I nod once. Operationally. His eyes widen. You've been doing that? All this time? Yes. He slowly turns toward Olivia. She can't meet his eyes. My mother suddenly forces a laugh. Oh well. Titles can sound much bigger than they really are. Kristen finally looks directly at her. The smile has disappeared. Carol, I've hired executives from Fortune 500 companies. I've worked with ambassadors. I've negotiated international acquisitions. She pauses. Finding someone capable of running my family's estates was considerably harder. No one moves. My mother's face loses color. Kristen continues calmly. Angel doesn't clean my estate. She protects it. She oversees every employee, every renovation, every major contract, every security review. If she's unavailable, my operations stop. Peter blinks repeatedly. He looks at me as though he's meeting me for the first time. In a way, he is. Franklin suddenly leans forward. Now wait a minute. You make it sound like she runs everything. Kristen answers without hesitation. When I'm abroad, she does. The sentence lands like thunder. Across the ballroom, conversations stop entirely. Even guests who weren't paying attention begin looking toward our table. Something important is clearly happening. Nobody knows exactly what. Yet, Peter slowly exhales. I honestly thought. He can't finish. I smile gently. I know. He looks genuinely embarrassed. I'm sorry. No. You don't have anything to apologize for. You believe what you were told. Those words aren't really for Peter. They're for everyone else at the table. My father suddenly points toward me. If all this were true, why would she let people think she's just a maid? He says it triumphantly, as if he's finally found the flaw, as if he's cornered me. Before I can answer, Kristen does, because every single time she tried to tell the truth, you interrupted her. Silence. She isn't guessing. She's describing exactly what she's watched for the past 15 minutes. Every interruption, every joke, every dismissal, every time someone answered on my behalf. Kristen turns back to me. Angel, when Peter asked what you did, what did you say? I said I worked full-time for one family. Was that true? Yes. When he asked if they trusted you, what did you say? I said they trusted me with everything. Was that true? Yes. When he assumed you cleaned houses, did you ever say he was right? No. The silence becomes almost unbearable, because everyone suddenly realizes the same thing. I never lied. Not once. They simply never bother to ask another question. Grandma Evelyn quietly dabs tears from her eyes. She isn't crying because the truth came out. She's crying because she knows how many years it took. Kristen reaches into her handbag, removes a slim leather card holder. From it, she takes out a business card. She places it gently on the table in front of Peter. Then another, in front of Peter's father. Then another, in front of Franklin. Gold lettering catches the chandelier light. Angel Ferguson, Estate Director, Whitmore Family Estates. No decoration, no exaggeration, just the truth. The same truth my parents had spent 12 years trying to reduce to a punchline. Franklin stares at the card. His hands don't move. Carol's lips part slightly. Olivia quietly lowers her eyes. No one says a word, because for the first time in my life, my family has run out of ways to explain me away. But the night still isn't over, because someone sitting across the ballroom has been listening to every single word, and he's about to reveal something that none of us, not even Kristen, expected. The silence doesn't end. It grows. People at neighboring tables begin pretending to refill their glasses just to stay close enough to listen. The orchestra quietly stops between songs. No one notices. Every eye is fixed on our table. On my parents. On Kristen. On me. Franklin is still staring at the business card. He flips it over as if another explanation might be hiding on the back. There isn't one. Just my name. My title. The company's seal. Nothing more. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need decoration. Carol suddenly laughs. Too loudly. Oh, come on. Estate director sounds impressive, but she's still taking care of someone's house. Nobody joins her laughter. Not Peter. Not Olivia. Not even Franklin. Kristen calmly folds her napkin. No. She's protecting a family legacy. There's a difference. Peter's father, Richard Evans, finally speaks for the first time. His voice is calm, measured. Kristen, I've known you for almost 20 years. I've never heard you describe an employee this way. Kristen turns toward him. Because Angel isn't just an employee. The room becomes quiet again. Richard studies her carefully. What do you mean? Kristen doesn't hesitate. For 6 years, I've trusted her with decisions that affected everything my family owns. If tomorrow I disappeared for a month, she could keep every estate running without calling me once. Peter slowly exhales. He looks at me differently now. Not with pity, with respect. And something else. Embarrassment. Then Richard asks the question no one else has thought to ask. Angel, how old were you when you started? 22. And how old are you now? 34. He nods slowly. So you've spent 12 years building this? Yes. 12 years. While your own family kept calling you the maid. He doesn't whisper. Everyone hears him, especially my parents. Olivia suddenly breaks the silence. You never told us. I finally look at her. Really look at her. For the first time all evening. I tried. You laughed. She opens her mouth, then closes it again, because she remembers. Every dinner, every joke, every interruption, every time she smiled instead of listening. Carol quickly jumps in. Well, how were we supposed to know? You always wore that uniform. I answer quietly. Because I was proud to earn every promotion. You were ashamed of the uniform. I wasn't. She has no response. Kristen gently rests one hand on the table. Carol, do you know what impressed me the most about Angel? My mother forces another smile. I'm sure you're going to tell us. Kristen nods. She never once introduced herself by her title. Not to guests. Not to contractors. Not even to new executives. She believed her work should speak before her position. She pauses. You were the only people who never stayed long enough to hear what her work was. No one breathes. Grandma Evelyn quietly smiles through tears. I've been waiting 12 years to hear someone say that. I reach for her hand under the table. She squeezes mine tightly. Peter suddenly pushes his chair back. He walks around the table until he's standing beside me. I'm sorry. He says it loud enough for everyone to hear. I judged you before I even met you. I shake my head. No. You trusted your future family. I would have done the same. He nods slowly. But I should have asked you. That sentence lands harder than he realizes. Because asking was all anyone ever had to do. Richard Evans looks directly at Franklin. I have to ask. Franklin swallows. When exactly did you find out about her position? Carol answers before he can. We thought she was exaggerating. Richard raises an eyebrow. For 12 years. No answer. Then comes the sentence that changes the atmosphere completely. Richard leans back in his chair. If this is how you speak about your successful daughter in public, I'd hate to imagine how you've treated her in private. No one at the Ferguson table responds. Because everyone knows the answer. Including me. Kristen quietly stands. Guests instinctively step aside. Not because she's wealthy. Because she carries herself like someone people naturally make room for. She looks directly at my parents. I've attended hundreds of charity galas, corporate dinners, political fundraisers. I've met celebrities, billionaires, royal advisors. She pauses. I have never seen parents work so hard to make their own daughter look smaller. No one blinks. No one moves. Even waiters stop walking. Then she turns toward me, not toward the room. Just me. Angel, I've never actually thanked you. I frown slightly. For what? For protecting my family's home, while no one protected yours. My chest tightens. For a second, I can't answer, because that's the first time anyone has ever acknowledged both parts of my life at the same time. Not just my career. My pain. Kristen smiles gently. I owe you far more than a promotion. Then, without warning, she wraps me in a brief embrace. The ballroom freezes. Not because two women hugged, because everyone there understands what that embrace means. Respect, pride, gratitude, everything I'd spent 12 years hoping to receive from my own parents, given freely by someone who wasn't even family. Across the room, I notice guests whispering. Phones appear, people quietly searching. Within seconds, several recognize the Whitmore family estate's name. Expressions begin changing. One after another. My parents notice it too. For the first time all evening, they aren't worried about me. They're worried about what everyone now thinks of them. And then, my mother does exactly what I knew she would. She reaches for my arm. Angel, can we talk somewhere private? No, not this time. Because after 12 years of public humiliation, the conversation she wants to hide is finally happening where everyone can see it. My mother's fingers close around my wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, just hard enough to stop me from walking away. Angel, please. Her voice is different now. Softer. Careful. The same woman who spent 12 years laughing at my career is suddenly afraid of speaking too loudly. Because now, people are listening. I slowly remove her hand. I'm staying right here. Her smile falters. We don't need to do this in front of everyone. I look around the ballroom. Crystal glasses, elegant centerpieces, guests pretending not to watch. The same people who had laughed at every joke about me less than an hour ago. Then I look back at her. You never had a problem embarrassing me in front of everyone. Silence. She can't deny it. Everyone here has already seen it happen. Franklin finally stands. His chair scrapes loudly across the marble floor. Enough! His voice carries through the ballroom. We've all misunderstood each other. I almost smile. Misunderstood. It's amazing how quickly years of humiliation become a misunderstanding once the truth comes out. Kristen calmly folds her arms. No, there was no misunderstanding. There was an assumption. And one person spent 12 years benefiting from it. She isn't looking at me. She's looking directly at my parents. Olivia suddenly steps forward. Her makeup can't hide the tears forming in her eyes. Angel! I didn't know. I search her face. Part of me wants to believe her. Another part remembers every birthday, every holiday, every family dinner, every opportunity she had to ask. Instead, she chose to laugh. Quietly, comfortably, beside everyone else. You never wanted to know. Her shoulders drop, because she knows it's true. Peter finally breaks the silence. He walks toward Olivia, then toward me. I need to say something. Everyone waits. When your parents introduced Angel today, I believed every word. He glances at my mother. I judged her before she even spoke. Then he looks back at me. I was wrong. He takes a slow breath. And honestly, I think the rest of us were wrong for believing a story about someone without ever asking them ourselves. Several guests quietly nod. One by one, the room begins changing. Not because of Kristen, not because of me, because people are finally questioning the story they'd accepted all evening. Richard Evans stands next. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Franklin, if someone spoke about my son the way you've spoken about your daughter tonight, I would consider it my greatest failure as a father. The words hit harder than any insult ever could. Franklin doesn't answer. For the first time in my entire life, he has nothing to say. The wedding coordinator quietly approaches Peter. Should we continue with the speeches? Peter looks around the room. Then toward me. No. One more thing first. He turns back to the guests. I think everyone here deserves to know who Angel actually is. My mother immediately shakes her head. Peter, please. Too late. Peter smiles gently. Tonight. I thought I was meeting Olivia's older sister. He looks at me. It turns out, I met someone who spent 12 years building an extraordinary career, while the people closest to her spent 12 years pretending it didn't exist. The applause begins somewhere near the back of the ballroom. One person, then another, until almost the entire room is clapping. Not loudly, not dramatically, respectfully. I stand completely still, because I don't know what to do. I've imagined my parents apologizing 1,000 different ways. I've imagined proving them wrong. I've imagined this moment for years. I never imagined applause. Grandma Evelyn reaches for my hand. I told you. Her voice trembles. One day, someone would ask. I squeeze her hand. You were right. She smiles through tears. No. She looks toward Kristen. We were. Kristen walks beside me. So, what do you want to do now? It's the first time all evening anyone has asked what I wanted. Not what my parents wanted. Not what Olivia wanted. Not what the guests expected. Just me. I look across the ballroom. My parents are standing together. Completely alone. Not because people are avoiding them. Because nobody knows what to say anymore. For years, they controlled every conversation about me. Tonight, they've lost that control forever. I take a slow breath. I think it's time for me to go. Kristen smiles. I'll walk out with you. Peter nods respectfully. So will I. As we begin walking toward the exit, guests naturally move aside. Not because I'm important. Because respect has quietly replaced pity. And that feels completely different. Outside, the evening air is cool. The music fades behind the heavy doors. For the first time all day, everything is quiet. Kristen looks at me. You know. I almost corrected them the second they called you the maid. I know. Why didn't you let me? I smile. Because if the truth had come from you, they would have said you misunderstood. But once they asked me the questions, they had to hear the answers. She nods. That's exactly why you became estate director. 3 days later, my phone rings. Mom. I already know why she's calling. I answer anyway. Her voice is unusually gentle. Angel, we should have dinner. Just the family. No. A long silence follows. We want to fix this. I close my office window and look out across the Whitmore estate. Employees move confidently between buildings. Gardeners prepare for spring. Contractors unload materials for another restoration project. The life I built, the family I chose, the respect I earned. None of it came from the people who raised me. It came from the people who believed in me before they knew my title. I hope you do fix it. I say quietly, but that's something you'll have to do with yourselves. Then I end the call. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Because for the first time in my life, I don't need their approval to feel successful. A few weeks later, Kristen promotes another young employee. After the meeting, she smiles at me. You saw something in her before anyone else. I nod. I know what it feels like when someone believes in you first. As we leave the office together, I think about something Grandma once told me. When people decide who you are, they stop listening. She was right. My parents stopped listening 12 years ago. Kristen never stopped. And in the end, that made all the difference. Because family isn't always the people who share your name. Sometimes, it's the people who see your worth long before the rest of the world finally catches up.